I remember the first thing that hit me wasn't fear. It was the light. A brutal, white gold light pouring through my eyelids like someone was holding a flashlight 2 inches from my face. I tried to lift my hand to shield myself, but even that simple idea didn't translate into movement. My fingers didn't twitch. My arm didn't rise. My brain felt like wet sand. Then came the second thing, the heat. A heat so dry and so crushing it felt like my skin was being peeled by invisible hands. I only realized later that my lips were cracked open, bleeding slightly from the dryness, and my throat felt like I had been swallowing ashes all night. And then, the third thing, silence. Not the kind of silence you get in a quiet house or out in the countryside. This one felt full, like a physical mass pressing down on everything around me. It was the silence of an endless, empty place. A silence that didn't care you were there. When I finally forced my eyes open, I saw nothing but endless dunes rolling in every direction, shimmering under the heat. Yellow and gold and blinding. I had no idea where I was. But worse, I had no idea who I was. My own name felt like something written on a fogged-up mirror, like if I wiped my hand across it, maybe I'd see it again. But right then, there was nothing. My mind was a blank wall with faint scratches on it, like memories had been removed and only the marks left behind. I forced myself upright. My back screamed from lying on hot sand for who knows how long. My neck popped. I sat there breathing, dizzy, feeling like the world was tilting sideways. And that's when I noticed the footprints. About 3 meters from where I woke up, a single trail of footprints led away across the sand. Deep at first, then lighter as they stretched farther, eventually swallowed by the sun-bleached distance. Here's the part that froze me. They weren't my footprints. I looked down at my own feet. I was wearing boots, dust-covered, scuffed, the kind you'd use for hiking or maybe for work outdoors. The footprints in the sand were bare, smaller than mine, lighter. Someone had been here, someone who left me behind, or someone I had followed. I didn't know why, but something inside me whispered that those prints mattered, that they were the only connection to anything that could explain who I was, or why I woke up alone in the middle of an ocean of sand. I pushed myself to my feet, swaying for a moment until my balance returned. My clothes were torn in a few places, dusty, but nothing dramatic. Jeans, a long-sleeved shirt rolled up at the elbows, and a small fabric pouch attached to my belt that held absolutely nothing. No ID, no phone, no keys, no wallet. Whoever I was meant to carry something there. And whatever it had been, someone had removed it. My head throbbed as I tried to think. Every time I pushed my brain toward a memory, it felt like sparks of light flashed behind my eyes, tiny bursts of pain that cut off whatever thought I was chasing. But through that fog, there was one sensation that kept coming back. I wasn't supposed to be alone. There had been someone with me, someone important, someone whose name sat on the edge of my tongue but vanished every time I tried to reach for it. I don't know how long I stood there, 10 seconds, 10 minutes, just staring at the prints. They were the only sign of direction, the only sign of purpose. The desert wasn't going to give me any other hints. No shade, no roads, no structures. Nothing but a horizon that looked like melted glass. So I did the only thing that made sense. I followed them. Every step I took sent a new wave of dizziness through my skull, like the ground was rippling under my feet. But I kept going. Step after step, I traced that single trail across the dunes, trying to keep the prints centered in my vision. After about an hour, I realized something else. There was only one set of footprints, not two, meaning either someone had left me here, or I had left someone behind. The sun burned overhead like an open furnace. I tried to walk in the footprints to conserve energy, but the sand was thick and hot, and my breathing turned shallow. Sweat rolled down my back, but it evaporated so quickly it felt like it never existed. A memory flashed. A brief broken image of someone laughing, warm sunlight, wind blowing through hair. But then it vanished again just as quickly, leaving a hollow ache behind it. As the hours passed, I started piecing together fragments. Not memories exactly, but instincts. I knew how to read the sun to tell direction. I knew how to ration my energy while walking in extreme heat. I knew how to look for signs of human presence, patterns in the sand, texture changes, faint indentations that hinted at past travelers. So whoever I had been, I wasn't clueless. I knew survival, and that scared me more than if I had remembered nothing at all. Around late afternoon, judging from the cooling air and the stretch of my shadow, I saw something in the distance. Not a building, not a person, something glinting, metal. I tried to shout, but my throat was too dry for anything louder than a cracked whisper. I moved faster, the sand shifting under my boots, my breath turning sharp. When I finally reached it, I realized what I was looking at. A canteen, half buried, scratched, dented. I dug it out. It had weight. I shook it gently and heard a slosh. Water. Real water. I twisted the lid open and took the smallest sip my body would allow. Every instinct screamed to gulp it down, but something deeper, survival training or memory, held me back. I sealed it, clipped it onto my belt, and only then realized that next to the canteen, half hidden under the sand, was something else. Another footprint. Fresh. This one barefoot like the others, but deeper, more deliberate. Like the person had stopped here on purpose. There was something eerie about that. Like the person who left these prints had placed the canteen here for someone else. For me. But why? I followed the prints again, more desperate now. The heat softened, shadows grew long, the desert turned from gold to rust, and as the light faded, something in my brain started to stir. A low hum, like a memory fighting its way through static. A name, not mine, theirs. But every time I tried to speak it, my throat locked up and pain shot behind my eyes like needles. My mind was barricaded from the inside, and whatever had happened to me, someone had wanted it that way. By nightfall, the temperature dropped fast, leaving me shivering despite the heat still hiding under the sand. I kept walking because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant that pain would flood my skull again. Eventually, the footprints led me to the base of a ridge, high sand walls shaped by years of wind. I expected them to go around it, but instead, they went straight into it. And then I realized they weren't just footprints anymore. They were handprints too, like the person had crawled up the ridge. I climbed after them. Halfway up, my boot slipped, sending sand tumbling down. I grabbed onto an exposed rock and hauled myself forward until I finally reached the top. And that's when I froze. Down below, hidden in the shadow of the ridge, was something completely out of place. A campsite. A small one, barely visible unless you stood exactly above it. A single tarp stretched between two low stone pillars. A burnt-out fire pit. A backpack leaning against the rock wall. And next to the backpack, a piece of paper flapping gently in the breeze. I slid down the ridge carefully, forcing my shaky legs to hold steady. My breath felt thin again, my heart pounding in my ears. When I reached the paper, I snatched it before the wind took it. There were only 3 words written on it. 3 words that I understood instantly, even though I didn't know how. Don't trust anyone. The handwriting was messy, rushed, like someone wrote it while running out of time. I turned it over. There was something else written faintly on the back. A number, a coordinate maybe, or a code. But the ink was smeared and almost illegible. Before I could study it further, I noticed something else inside the fire pit. Something metallic reflecting the moonlight. I reached in and pulled it out. A small USB drive. Dusty, scratched, burned at the edges, but still intact. And that's when the memory hit me. Not a full memory, but a sensation. Someone had handed it to me, pressed it into my palm. Their voice urgent, trembling. Their face blurred, but their tone impossibly clear. If something happens, don't let them get this. Run. Don't stop, don't trust. The rest vanished in a spike of pain, forcing me to drop to my knees. I grabbed my head, trying to breathe through the throbbing behind my eyes. But one thing had come through the fog. This USB drive mattered. It was the reason I was here. The reason someone had erased my memories. The reason someone had left me to die in the desert. And whoever left those footprints, they had tried to help me, or they had tried to escape me. I didn't know yet. But by the time the moon climbed high enough to silver the sand, I knew one thing for sure. Someone was looking for me, and they weren't far. I could feel it, like static prickling across my skin. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if they were looking for me to save me, or to stop me from remembering the truth. The air grew colder as the night deepened, the desert transforming into a vast bowl of shadows. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to keep warm. But the chill wasn't what really bothered me. It was the sense, deep in my ribs, that I was being watched. Every instinct screamed it. The same instincts that had been slowly resurfacing since I woke up. The ones that told me how to walk without wasting energy, how to track footprints without losing the trail, how to ration water even when my throat felt like cracked stone. I crouched low by the abandoned campsite, scanning the dunes. Nothing moved, but it didn't matter. Whoever was out there, they knew how to hide. I turned my attention back to the USB drive. My fingers traced the melted edges, the scratches across the casing. It must have survived heat, maybe fire, maybe worse. The last thing I remembered before waking up was darkness and voices. One voice in particular, soft, urgent, trembling with fear, pleading with me to protect this tiny piece of metal like it was the most important thing in the world. But why? With no way to access it, I placed it inside the empty pouch at my belt. It fit perfectly, like it had always been meant to be there. It felt right, familiar, a piece of me, whatever me meant now. Then I crouched by the footprints again, the bare ones. They led past the campsite and deeper around the ridge. Someone had camped here only recently, maybe hours before I arrived. Whoever they were traveling fast, and they were alone. I grabbed the canteen, took another small sip, and followed the prints again. This time, the trail was harder to follow. The wind had started to pick up, soft grains of sand sliding over the impressions. If I waited any longer, they'd disappear entirely. So I walked. The desert at night is something no one prepares you for. One moment you're freezing, the next a warm gust swirls past like a breath from beneath the earth. The moonlight twists shapes in the dunes, making hills look like living things. Every sound echoes, your own footsteps, your own breath, and you start imagining things following you. But I kept moving. For hours I walked until the horizon began to blush with early light, painting everything in pale blue. That's when I finally saw it. A shape, far ahead, small, slumped, almost blending into the sand. I slowed my pace. My heart hammered painfully inside my chest. I don't know why, but part of me was terrified of what or who I would find. As I got closer, the shape sharpened. Not an animal, not a bag, not debris. A person, collapsed on their side, bare feet. The footprints had led here. I approached carefully, every nerve in my body tensed. My shadow fell over them. The figure didn't move. Their breath was shallow, weak. They looked dehydrated, their skin pale beneath a film of sand. Their clothes were torn even more than mine. Then something hit me. Hard. A sensation. Recognition. I didn't know their name. I didn't know their voice. But I knew. This person mattered. Like a thread from whatever life I had before still connected me to them. "Hey," I whispered, shaking their shoulder gently. "Can you hear me?" Their eyelids fluttered. A soft, strained sound escaped them. They turned slightly, and I saw their face clearly for the first time. And just like that, a memory flickered. A moment, a laugh, wind blowing through their hair. A sunset, a promise whispered between two people who trusted each other completely. But as quickly as it came, it vanished again, leaving me kneeling in the sand with nothing but the ghost of a feeling. I reached for the canteen, slid an arm under their shoulders, and lifted their head carefully. "Small sips," I murmured instinctively, Words that felt like habit, like something I'd said before to this very person. "You'll get sick if you drink too fast." They drank, trembling. After a moment, their eyes focused on me. Really focused. And the expression they gave made my stomach drop. Fear. But not fear of the desert, fear of me. Their lips moved, a whisper, barely audible. "You shouldn't be here." My heart thudded once, heavy enough to shake my bones. "What happened?" I asked. "Who are you?" They shook their head weakly. "No, not here. They're coming. You have to go." "Who's coming?" I pressed. "Tell me." Their breathing quickened. Panic curled through their voice. "They'll find you. They always track loose ends. You weren't supposed to remember anything." That sentence felt like a knife dragged across my nerves. "What do you know about my memory?" I asked, but the person squeezed their eyes shut, shaking their head. "You weren't supposed to wake up," they whispered. "Not yet." A chill crawled down my spine despite the growing heat of dawn. "What do you mean, not yet?" They tried to sit up, pain etched across their face. I helped, propping them against a small dune. They pointed a trembling hand farther into the desert. "There's a place, half a day from here, a safe place, a hidden one. People who can help you. You have to go, right now." "Not without you." A faint, pained laugh escaped their cracked lips. "You always say that." My stomach twisted again. Something about those words felt carved into me. Something so familiar it made my chest tighten. Something warm, something painful. But before I could ask more, they grabbed my wrist. And this time their voice wasn't weak. It was urgent. "Whatever you do, don't let them get the drive." I froze. "You know about that?" "They'd do anything to get it," they whispered. "Anything. The truth inside it. It's the reason we're out here. The reason they wiped you." "Who are they?" I demanded. "Tell me." But before they could answer, a sound rolled across the desert. A low rumble, mechanical, distant but growing louder. The person's eyes went wide. "No, no, no, they're early." The fear in their voice snapped every instinct in my body awake. I crouched low on the dune, scanning the horizon. At first I saw nothing. Then, slowly, small black shapes appeared far away, like insects crawling across the sand. But as they moved closer, I recognized them. ATVs, 3 of them, moving fast. Whoever these people were, they knew exactly where to look. "We have to run," I said, but the person shook their head weakly. "I can't. My leg." I looked down. Their ankle was swollen, twisted badly. They must have fallen during the night. I tried lifting them, but they pushed me away with what little strength they had. "You won't outrun them carrying me." "I'm not leaving you," I growled, surprising myself with how fierce the words sounded. "You have to," they insisted, gripping my shirt. "This isn't just about us, you don't remember. But you will. And when you do, you'll understand why I made you promise." "What promise?" They swallowed hard. "That if it came to this, you'd survive, even if I didn't." Those last words punched a hole through my chest. Something inside me cracked open. A buried feeling, raw and painful. Too deep to understand now. I didn't get to answer. A voice boomed across the desert, amplified through a megaphone. "Stop where you are!" I dropped flat behind the dune, dragging the injured person down with me. Sand cascaded over us. My pulse thundered in my ears. Another voice followed. Calm, confident, terrifyingly certain. "We only want what belongs to us. Hand it over and no one gets hurt." My hand closed instinctively over the pouch with the USB drive. The injured person grabbed my wrist desperately. "Don't let them take it. Please." The ATVs screeched to a halt atop a distant dune. 3 figures in desert gear dismounted. Careful, coordinated. They moved like people who had done this many times before. One of them scanned the ground. They pointed. "There! Footprints!" They started walking, slow, deliberate. They weren't rushing. That meant they were confident. They thought they had already won. I knew if I didn't move now, we were done. "I'm going to draw them away," I whispered. The injured person's eyes widened. "No, it's the only way." I placed the canteen in their lap, pulled the tarp from the abandoned campsite and draped it over them, smoothing the sand around the edges to hide them as best I could. My chest felt tight with every movement. "You said you know me," I murmured. "Before all this." They nodded helplessly. "Then trust me, whatever I was before, I can do this." Their eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something deeper, something like loss. "Be careful," they whispered. I squeezed their hand once. Then I sprinted, not toward safety, toward the opposite direction, farther into the desert, making sure my boots left deep, obvious tracks. Behind me, a shout erupted. "There! He's running!" Engines roared to life. The ATVs surged forward. Sand exploded behind the wheels. I pushed myself harder, lungs burning, legs shaking, every muscle screaming. But the more I ran, the more a strange clarity washed over me, like my body remembered things my mind didn't. How to zigzag to break line of sight. How to use dunes as cover. How to control my breathing to avoid collapse. Voices shouted behind me. The engines grew louder. The heat rose again, waves rippling across the sand. I risked a glance back. 2 ATVs split apart to flank me. The third moved straight ahead, trying to cut me off. I veered sharply toward a tall dune, disappearing behind it for a second. As I slid down the far side, I saw a narrow crevice between 2 ridges, barely visible unless you were close. Without thinking, I dove into it. The ATVs thundered past above me, sand raining down from their wheels. I pressed myself flat against the stone as engines buzzed overhead like angry insects. Silence followed, then voices. "He went east." "No, south, I saw him drop." "Spread out, he can't be far." They argued, then split, engines roaring in 3 different directions. I held my breath until the sound faded. Only then did I allow myself to collapse onto the cool sand inside the crevice. For a minute, all I could do was breathe. Then I crawled deeper until the walls widened enough for me to stand. That's when I saw it. At the far end of the narrow passage, barely visible, a faint glow flickered on a rocky outcrop. Not fire, something else, something artificial. A light, faint, flickering, almost like a signal. The injured person had pointed this way. They had known. I stepped toward it, heart pounding. Every step I took felt like another piece of myself waking up. The instincts, the fear, the determination. I didn't know who I had been before all this, but I was beginning to understand what I was now. Someone carrying a secret powerful enough that people chased me into the desert. Someone who had lost everything except one task. And someone who had promised, not to another person, but to the only person who had ever mattered, that I would finish what we started. Whoever they were, whoever we were. I wasn't done. Not yet. I reached the glowing symbol on the rock, some kind of mark etched into the stone, pulsing faintly like a coded beacon. When I touched it, the light brightened, and the rock slid open, revealing a hidden passage descending underground. Cool air washed over me, carrying the faint hum of machinery. My breath caught. This was it, the place the prince had been leading me toward all along. The truth waited below, and I was done running from it. I stepped inside. The door slid shut behind me. Darkness swallowed everything, but for the first time since waking up in the desert, I wasn't afraid. Thank you for staying with me through every step of this journey. It means more than you can imagine to have someone listening while I try to put these pieces of my life back together. If this story pulled you in, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share it with someone who loves intense survival mysteries. Your support helps us continue bringing stories like this to life.